Welcome everybody to Tasty Tuesdays. I'm Lorene from Crafting Possibilities, and tonight we have Melissa Wilkes from Improve Yourself. Welcome, Melissa. How are you going tonight?
Good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let me introduce Melissa. She is a nutrition and mindset coach and food ninja, as you saw in the opening credits there. Through her journey with binge eating and sugar addiction for many years and becoming aware of how much consumed her life sent her on a journey into nutrition and mindset. Melissa works with many women suffering from years of stress, running around after everyone, which results in emotional eating and unhealthy habits. Forever feeling stuck in the loop of destructive choices that affect energy, constant overwhelm, low self-esteem, making it really difficult for them to stick to and make long-lasting changes. Melissa helps women move from being exhausted, confused, and guilty around food to making healthier food choices easily by learning healthy eating habits, increasing their energy, and healing their relationship with food. Something else Melissa has noticed in her work with spiritual women, which is very interesting for me, is that they find by improving their food and lifestyle habits, their gifts and skills enhance even more. As we eat healthier, we raise our vibrations and connections in all ways. So let's dive in and find out more.
It's always funny when you hear your own intro.
And that was quite the intro, I have to say.
Yes, didn't realise.
It's all good. So I'd love to know, how did you begin your spiritual journey?
What I remember is my own personal, experience was when I was struggling in high school, and I was getting bullied really bad, and I didn't have a great home life, and the school I was at had I can't remember what they were called, I think a chaplain or something. And they referred me on to someone that came into the school, and she was into crystals and talked about chakras and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but it made me feel safe. And I think that's what I didn't feel in high school, at home and at school, so both places. And it gave me a sense of connecting to myself, so safety and connecting to myself. And I feel like that was the real start of my journey. I've got 3 kids, married my husband from high school. And it was when we had our third that a lot of that, I guess, the journey started again. He's now 15, but we noticed that he was talking and seeing things that we couldn't see. And that really developed. And I guess my journey has sort of been just alongside him, learning from him and from people that I was taking him to, because some of the things he did and said was classed as different. And yeah, that's kind of how it's all gone from there.
Wow, that's so super cool. It's interesting because there was an image that I was going to pop into your intro that I didn't, and it was one where you're sitting on the beach with a box full of essential oils. And it was one of your profile pictures from your business page. And I was like, I really wish to put that in there, but I'm not sure where that is floating through your business now. So it's like, obviously you're into the essential oils for a while. So what other sort of tools and stuff do you use with your, like within your journey that you've perhaps now integrated into your business and how you work with your clients?
Okay. So a lot of using a lot of your senses, so things that you are, I guess, seeing, connecting to that, what suits each person is different. So generally, if I'm doing like one-on-one coaching with somebody, obviously it's nutrition and mindset, but really what it is that they're kind of needing. Then I guess what smells people need. So like you said, the essential oils, or it could be incense, And then supportive as it sounds as well. So some people like to have their favorite music or some high frequency music or meditation. So I try and bring in lots of different aspects. So you're covering all your senses. And like we were talking about before, I think that we need to bring in a few different things to support ourselves. There's a lot going on, and one thing just doesn't make us instantly feel better. If we can bring in lots of different things to support ourselves, that really does help to, boost how you're feeling and improve how you're feeling and moving forwards to reach your goals.
Absolutely. I'm curious to know, when you were on your sort of the start of your spiritual journey, what sort of tools did you use the most at that time?
Probably oracle cards, because I wasn't really sure of myself and I felt stuck. I was really sitting in a lot of trauma and past experiences, and was in my victimhood a lot. And so I found the cards to be, when you're kind of lacking in your own self-belief, it's like they can give you not purpose, but direction and clarity to a certain extent, especially when you haven't done much of the inside work. And at that point, I hadn't done enough of it. I'd only been dabbling in it. And the more obviously inside work you do, mindset work you do, whatever you want to call it, the more you obviously feel stronger in your beliefs and your intuition, and you feel sure of yourself. But I found them just really, really great. So I used to have like a beautiful little ritual. I haven't done it so much this year, but I did it for a long time, and that was to really be in my own room, in my own area, space, and I would put incense on and essential oils and have my oracle cards, some crystals, and, just really sitting in my own space and sitting with myself. And I feel like that's really, really powerful. And I still love doing it. I just different priorities at the moment. But it's a really great tool or just a great healthy habit to get yourself up in the morning and have a little ritual that works really well for you. Yeah. And that's what I found. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that you have those tools that you've kept going for a really long time. I think that also, especially when we're in those moments of instability or great change, it's like if we got those checkpoints, those set points to go, I can still do this today. No matter what else is going on in my world, I can still do this today and I'm okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Kind of like anchoring you in, grounding you before, you go about your day.
Exactly. And we have the beautiful Tina. She is with us in the chat. So she says, Melissa is great with mindset work.
Thank you, Tina.
So my next interesting question is, what does consciousness mean to you?
Constant consciousness.
No, just consciousness.
Oh.
My mouth got
Okay. What's consciousness? I guess for me, I feel like it's thoughts, feelings, emotions. It's really connecting to self, and having that self-awareness as well. So being very aware of what's going on in the inside, and then that helps you to be aware of what's going on the outside. For me, just really showing up with connecting mind and body. I think from childhood experiences, I became very disconnected from my body, and my thoughts and feelings kind of ruled everything. And I just didn't really understand. And I mean, your body talks to you all day, every day. I have had to, do so much work on that, which is something I passionately teach people about now. But when you're sitting in, or you have had modeled to you a certain type of behavior, you kind of, you really have that dissociation from self. And so I guess that's the opposite of what we're really wanting to achieve. So to have consciousness is, for me, to be checking in with myself throughout the day, like talking to myself, not like those crazy people walking around on the streets, although I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. But I literally do have more and more conversations with myself. And as I do that, it's like my mind and body are checking and connecting with self. Like, what are you needing right now? What is it that you're experiencing? What are you feeling right now? And then when you're doing that a lot, you can kind of be a lot more aware of what's happening around you, and recognizing sensations in the body on the outside and the inside of the body as well. Just being really conscious of what is it that looks like? What is it my body and mind are trying to communicate with, within me? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I completely agree with you. Like the way that I grew up as well, I was so disassociated from my body. There was so many areas of emotional trauma that were just locked in, and not all of it was mine, by the way. There was a lot of familial trauma that was locked into my body that I had to release as well. And so I totally get it. Like now I am very aware of things around me, the energies, how my body reacts, how my body is talking to me. I still sometimes don't necessarily listen too good sometimes, we're not all perfect. There's many a funny story I have about that. Like on the weekend when I was doing some painting, and as in painting cornices, and I had this small chunk about this big left to go of this one room. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to have a little drink and a break after that. My body was like, it'd be really good to have a break now. And I'm like, we've just got this little bit to go. And I was up there. I was just doing the last little bit. And all of a sudden I hear this funny watering dribbly sound. And I thought, because I was in the bathroom, so I thought, oh, maybe I've just sort of knocked a tap or something. I looked down, and the cup that had, or the container I had my paint in, was tipping and going down onto the bath.
Oh no.
So my body literally was saying, no, we're going to make you stop now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's become a lot more demanding because she knows I can hear her.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And I think that happens. I think as we get older, we push through so much stuff and we're not listening and hearing what our body's trying to communicate with us. And also because, and I say this a lot probably, but we are such good nurturers. We're so good at looking after everybody else. We're so good at making sure everybody else is okay, whether it's our family or the people we work with or our pets or our loved ones, whoever it is. And then sometimes we get to the end of the day and we're like, I haven't checked in with myself at all. We really get out of that habit because we're so good at nurturing everybody else. And I think from working with so many women kind of our age, we're just putting everyone else first and making sure everyone's okay. And then there's not much left in our fuel tank to keep us checking in and seeing what our needs are. And it's so important, like you said, to really listen and see what's happening instead of pushing through that stuff.
Yeah, listen and act upon what you hear.
Yeah.
It was just one of those really super funny moments, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah,
we're all good. We'll just quickly clean this up now because there's no way I want to try and clean up, dry paint off a bath. But I was like, thank you.
Or something like
I know. That was my other thought, was that, oh my goodness, thank goodness this wasn't on the carpet. Thank you, Bonnie. You're so smart. Oh dear. So I'd love to know, what is your most tasty moment in life so far?
Ooh, what do you mean by that, tasty moments in life?
Oh, it could be anything. It's a very open-ended question. So it could be a tasty experience, something wonderful that's happened to you, your most profound moment, if you like, something like that.
Okay. I think it was a traumatic experience I actually had, so probably not a positive, but it was. That makes sense. I had something happen to me, and it kind of came from all different angles, if that makes sense. So it involved work, it involved friendships, it involved relationships, health, so many different categories, I guess, or angles. And it was an experience that brought me to my knees and really humbled me. And I experienced something. At the time, I thought, nobody wants to experience this. It was just my version of real deep trauma, which brought up, older trauma. And I'd done so much work up until that point. But I got to that. I had a friend reach out, someone that she wasn't actually a friend. She was just somebody that an acquaintance. And she actually said to me, where you are right now, do you know how much support you have? And I said, no, I have my husband and my kids. And she's like, no, but you have other support. And she brought in, explained to me about angels and spirit team and a whole heap of things I had not even thought of. And when I say brought me to my knees, like I would get up in the morning and try and function, and then I would literally end up either in bed or on the floor crying. I couldn't control the amount of motions and reaction my body was having. And I think it was a real release, but it was also an opportunity for me to see that I wasn't alone. And I think when you've had those certain experiences as a child, you can sometimes feel abandoned or rejected or not good enough or whatever it is. And to know that there are opportunities to not feel that way, that there is possibilities out there that can support you, that was a really big thing. So what felt like an experience that was super traumatic for me. And I think, well, I've given birth to 3 children, like that's pretty full on. But what I felt like the pain was nothing compared to that pain I experienced at that time. And I felt very raw. And at the same time, I felt humbled and supported and loved. And I would ask for help and guidance. And it was like everything I was asking for was being presented in front of me. So even though it was wobbly and I felt very unstable, I also had this like feeling of it's going to be okay and you're going to be fine and you're supported, and just keep believing and everything's supposed to happen the way it is. And it literally did, because it changed the whole path of where I was going. And I just kept asking for what I wanted from that traumatic experience. And this amazing turn of events happened. And my life has just propelled forward in the most incredible positive way. And I mean, life is, a roller coaster, and it's got its up and downs, but I can honestly say from that moment, every month, every 6 months, every year, I just see so much improvement in myself, so much growth and so much strength. And if I hadn't have maybe had that person reach out and tell me that I didn't have to do everything on my own and that there was other possibilities, I don't know, where I would be, but it definitely propelled me down a different path. And I'm very, very grateful and thankful for that experience. And
thank you so much for sharing that. That is beautiful. And it's really fascinating to me how many incredible healers and different modality type people that I've had on this show, and the majority of them, not all of them, but the majority of them have had some kind of experience like that, where it's just been a big, huge, massive spiritual shake-up of some sort, where it's kind of like giving you that big, huge, we're going to give you just such a big, huge, massive shake so that all of that old stuff starts dropping off of you really fast. All those old coats and layers and all of that, those barriers and stuff that you've put up between you and us, we're going to smash them out of the way, and you're going to feel it, and it's going to feel like crap, and then we can actually get to work. Because you're here to do great things. And you're here to help inspire people, and you're here to help heal, and you're here to, increase the consciousness of this planet so that we can actually continue on this forward journey. And it's so beautiful that you have been through that experience, because now you can inspire others to also know that they are not alone. Because I think the worst part of, more than likely, when you went through that, is that there would have been a lot fewer people around you that could tell you that.
Yes.
There's a lot more now, because we have been through this journey. So we can spot it when somebody's going through that, and it's like, you're not alone. Yay. Be excited. This part's actually really exciting. I know you feel like rubbish, but it's okay. You're going to be good.
Yeah.
Just breathe.
Oh, that was probably too much breathing. I think I was a bit like
breathe slow and deep.
Yeah, exactly. And it is amazing that there are more people to reach out to, and there is more of the discussion, and it is more comfortable to be able to connect into the things that you want to, but you're not sure how other people are going to feel about it, or how you actually feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I love these discussions like this. These first chats with people on Tasty Tuesdays is really about highlighting what your experience was when you stepped into that journey, so that others can sort of go, oh yeah, I'm feeling that too right now. And okay, so I'm not completely wacko. And hey, it is okay that I'm now seeing strange colors and orbs and shapes and seeing things like I never used to see them. And it is okay that I'm recognizing that the thoughts that are going through my head aren't mine. And it is okay that, my sleep might be a bit disturbed, or I'm incredibly exhausted, or whatever is going on. It is okay, because now I know that I've got support in all these different types of modalities.
Yeah.
So yay. And talking about modalities, what sort of modalities have you played with? We sort of touched on a little bit before, but I'd like to know just a little bit more about that for you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I kind of coach in two different ways. So the nutrition side is very education, mentoring, teaching kind of aspect, hands-on way. And then when it comes to the mindset, it's probably a lot more of I do some somatic work, which we talked about earlier as well. And it's a lot of the, I guess, mind-body connection. And I think that we have all the tools. It's just me really helping and supporting people to bring those things out and to see them and recognize them. Yeah. I think
beautiful. With your journey with food, and it was mentioned in the intro there about how you were in the binge eating cycle and the addiction to sugar. So how did that show up, and you kind of go, oh, hang on, this isn't great. Like, I have to change this. I'd like to know a little bit more about that part of your journey.
Yeah. Okay. I think we grew up with some pretty strict rules around food and had to eat everything on the plate. And if you ate everything that was on your plate, then you're allowed to have dessert. We had to have dessert. So I learned to overeat and eat a lot from a young age, really switch off what my body was saying, I'm full. I learned to push past that. But I think there was a lot of that emotional eating, which the binge eating, the sugar addiction, was me not knowing how to regulate my emotions. And I think there's a lot of us that never learnt that, and maybe it was never modelled by one or both parents that were maybe dissociated with themselves because of their own upbringing. And that was definitely the case for me. And so I ate my emotions because I didn't know how to deal with them. And when you're sort of also late to develop those skills, you can do a bit of damage with your habits and to the body. So I was showing up with all sorts of stuff. It wasn't until I got diagnosed with an autoimmune that I decided to have my real wake-up call. And I went and joined a gym, and I started following what the personal trainer was saying to eat. And I started seeing a little bit of a change, but it was when my youngest one, he was experiencing lots of health issues, and he was about to go through and have some surgeries and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, actually, I might just try a few things. So we actually cut out dairy, gluten, sugar all at once. My husband came home and everything was in garbage bags, and he was like, "What are you doing, Melissa?" I was like, "We're going all in. We're going all in." And it was that we started having huge results straight away. So there's 5 of us in the family, all my kids, my husband, myself. It wasn't just, the one person, even though we all had different things that we were dealing with health-wise, and my other 2 kids were having huge health problems. But changing the food was really big, and it was impactful. And people just started to see a change in me, in my behavior, in my moods, my kids, hubby, the weight loss, the energy, and people asking questions. You start sharing that. And I thought, you know what, I better get qualified. So I started studying nutrition. I started studying gut health. I then went on to study eating psychology. And that was really understanding more about myself first before I could really understand, I guess, more. And then I've been learning a lot about trauma and how that shows up in the body, being able to understand how our body communicates with us. Things like, your inner knowing, and you scratch the back of your head. And when you need to see something, you get an itchy eye. And that's been a really cool part of the journey. And I think, recently hypnotherapy, NLP. But what I do think is that our relationship with food is it's very complicated because it's something we have to do every day. And like I said before, us women will make sure everybody else is okay, and we don't necessarily feed ourselves the right food or the right love or the right attention. And there's lots of different ways to feed ourselves. And once we learn those things, and sometimes we're just out of the habit or we never learnt it, and if we can just slowly bring in small, simple things and you just keep building on them, you think about what skills that you're, really good at and how you just keep trying to build on those. If we all did that in regards to our own health, we can make huge changes. And we're always, life happens. We're going to have little setbacks or we're going to, fall off the wagon, as people call it. But if your goal and your priority is that you're going to always, spend, consistent effort in improving your health, that you've got nothing to lose, you can only move forwards. And if there's anything we've learned from the last few years, that, it's the most important thing, right? It's so important to know that we can have that confidence in our own health and well-being and what we're putting in our mouth, what we're choosing to eat. Yeah. I hope that wasn't too long of an answer. But
No, that's perfect. Thank you. I love what you're saying there about that connection to food, and I have always maintained an addiction to food is the hardest one to break, because you still have to eat every day. And it's like people say, oh no, addiction to cocaine or cigarettes is the worst, and I'm like, no, because your body doesn't literally need that
for survival.
It's to survive. Like, yes, it's an addiction. Yes, it does mess with your brain and your neuro pathways and all that sort of stuff. I get it. But so does an addiction to food. And it's like, though, like, for all those things that you mentioned about those habits, those modelings that we've seen, I grew up with the same as you. There was a distinct moment where my auntie, I must have been very young. I would have been maybe 3 or 4, maybe. I don't remember this day, but she does. And I was sitting there and I'd eaten everything else but my beans. And I didn't want to eat my beans. I'd had some and I was just like, I'm full, I'm done. And my dad refused to let me leave the table. And it was 10 o'clock at night. I was so tired. I was basically in my head on the table, falling asleep. Dad wouldn't let me leave the table because I hadn't eaten my beans.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and there was, she just said, come on, Laurie, let her go. She needs to go to bed. She's too young. Yeah. She's like, she's pretty much a toddler, and you're making her stay up because she hasn't eaten her bloody beans. Just serve them to her in the morning. That's that important to you.
I can relate to that because we had the same thing, and my brother got really grossed out by certain foods, and I remember trying to like sneak some of his food so we could leave the table. Didn't matter what time it was, and the food got turned to like, it was so gross by the time, and my poor brother, I never forget. And I think that it can create these unhealthy relationships with food. But it was all good intentions to get the food down us as kids. But it's probably from, it's coming from the heart, I guess, to a certain point, but it's not necessarily healthy for us. And it teaches us at a very young age that unhealthy relationship with food, and to ignore what our body is saying when it's saying it's enough. So yeah, exactly what you said, for sure. And I think we're so busy, we get caught up in that rush busyness of life, and our mind's going constantly, and we're pushing our bodies, and it needs a break. And sometimes we use food to be the break. So it's just little things like that have such a huge impact and really do change that connection to food.
Oh, absolutely. There was another cool little trick my parents used to use, which was if we said we were full, they would touch our belly and poke it and go, oh, no, look, I can see that there's still a little bit of room in there.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard that before.
Wow.
And
so, because obviously your belly is squishy. Yeah. And so they'd go, no, look, you can fit another few more bits of whatever's left on your plate. It's like, see, there's a space there. You can fit it in.
Wow, interesting. Which they would have learned from their parents, most likely, or one of their parents. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a funny one. And I think back on it, and I know that there's been some moments with little ones that I've looked after, and I've kind of maybe done that in a more subdued way, but it's like, that's something that I did. And I was like, gosh, looking back on that, I'm like, that's not so great. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, I get it. Like, kids can be a little bit apprehensive about trying new things as well. So it's like, when I was doing childcare and nannying, it would be more of a, just try, just give it a little wee taste. You don't have to eat the whole thing. That's okay.
Yeah.
But give it a little taste and see, you might actually like it. And if you don't, that's okay too. We'll give it a try another day.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes a few goes for them to realize that, oh, actually, this is nice. I do like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I do that with adults still now. So with clients. And it could just be the way it's cooked, or given the way you're eating it. It can be the way you're cutting it, it can be the way that it looks, because we eat with our eyes. So the way something's presented to us makes a big difference. And for me, I've got 2 boys out of 3 kids, and my middle child was such a fussy eater when he was younger, and he wanted to eat his veggies raw. So he ate all his veggies raw. He just didn't want to eat them cooked. He didn't like squishings, textures in his teeth. And so it's just really discovering you can still try foods. It's just trying different ways of doing the food as well. Like, how are you going to eat it? Maybe it's got to be air fried these days. Maybe it's got to be raw, so just figuring out how to, a lot of people juicing food. So working it out that your body likes it, or that your eyes are okay with you ingesting it.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember my second brother, he couldn't eat a steak, wouldn't eat solid meat at all, but he was absolutely fine with sausages and mincemeat.
Yeah.
Because it was a textural thing. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And most kids do grow out of those things anyway, majority of them. It's when we're forced to do something that we don't feel comfortable with, and then there's a little bit of, it's a disconnect there, and then you start to have that bit of an issue with it, that you were forced with that particular food, so then it gets harder as you get older. Whereas if it's like, okay, we'll try you again with that food later,
Just take that pressure off. It's like, even to this day, I'm still a bit funny about eating beans.
Exactly. But that's what I mean. That's what I do with clients. It's like figuring out what is our trauma links to food, because there is quite a lot. We don't even realize that we have. And it's really like going on that journey to like look into your memories of like, what was it that was happening? What was the things that you did as a kid, or you were taught as a kid? And it can be in school or at a friend's house, and they're going to create stories in the head around that food that can block us as we get older.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember there was something that my mum used to do, because my mum at this stage was a single mum, and we didn't have a lot of like takeaways or stuff at home. And when we went on the big trip up to Hamilton, because it's in New Zealand, and we would stop and get McDonald's, and it was a very rare treat for us to do that. And she knew that they had the gherkins inside the burgers, but she really loved the gherkins. And so she used to say, "I'll have your gherkins, you won't like them."
Yeah.
And then there was one day she forgot to take the gherkins out of one of my brother's burgers, and he's like, "Oh, Mum, this burger's really nice today. What's different?" She looked at it and goes, "Oh, damn, I forgot to take his gherkins."
Yeah. Look at that. I know. My sister-in-law did that with my nephew. She told him he didn't like Coke, and that he would never like Coke, as in Coca-Cola. And so she just convinced him. So he, right up until I think he was about 14, 15, before he tried Coke at someone's house one day, and then started drinking it after that, but had never drank it because she told him he didn't like it, to keep him away from it. So there you go. Oh, gee.
Oh, the mind games we play with food. Absolutely love it. So with your business, I love that you do like integrative nutrition, and we've sort of played around that area quite a lot. And I'd love to know sort of what a top tip for you that you'd sort of maybe share with our audience, if you may, of how to really start tuning in on those possible starting journey of learning what your trigger points are, learning and sort of starting to recognize that side of things. Yeah. Without going too far into it, because obviously if they wish to explore further, then they can book in a session with you.
I think one of the first things is to get comfortable having conversations with yourself. And the second thing is to do check-in points throughout the day. So sometimes I encourage clients, depends how disconnected they are, but I'll encourage clients, like, you can put a little timer on your, like a little alarm on your phone, as long as it doesn't sound like an alarm. You don't want it to sound like rah, 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 but something nice, a nice little music or something like that. And then when that happens and it goes off, you just stop and sit for 30 seconds, a minute, and you're just really concentrating on your breathing and just connecting with yourself and just saying, what do I need? A lot of us don't know what we need. We haven't learned to recognize the things that we need or what our wants are. And if we can do that, so sometimes I could sit here right now and I know straight away, like, I need more water. I drink a lot of water. And, just really connecting with your body. Like, how does your body feel? Does it need, do you need to move it because you've been sitting in a chair for a long time? Or when's the last time you ate? Just giving yourself that moment to connect with and ask yourself, like, what do I need right now? I feel like that's really, really powerful. And for a lot of us, it is actually water, and people don't drink enough water. It's such a big one. As soon as I start working with people, the first thing I'm doing is like, how much water are you drinking? Because that's really like the gateway to your health. But I think, if you kind of do those couple of things, like talk to yourself and really find ways to connect with yourself throughout the day, just checking in with yourself makes a huge difference, and connects that mind and body together as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great tip. I love that. It's like, I'm just like, I can totally integrate that. I have alarms set on my phone at like 10:30, 12 or 12:30, 3, and 12:30 and 3, not 12:33. That's a very specific time. And, I could absolutely do that. And now the reminders for me to stop and have a rest and take a break and hydrate and eat and all those sorts of things if required, if it works in with my work day. And because I realized very quickly when I moved into my cleaning job that if I don't set these times, especially when I'm in those big jobs, I'll just work through and I'll push through, like we were just talking about before. And it's like, next thing you know, I'm going, gosh, I feel really thirsty. It's like, and it's getting past that point of requiring hydration. We started heading towards dehydration, and it's like, that's not a good space to be in.
Exactly. I call it power pauses, and I try and get clients to do it throughout the day, and it doesn't take long. You can literally set it on your phone for like a month, and then after that you're doing it throughout the day. It's not just at those times, but you'll actually start checking in with yourself. And it starts turning into a bit of a subconscious habit, which is perfect. It's what you want to be doing.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's beautiful. So for somebody just beginning their spiritual journey, what sort of top tip would you give other than the beautiful one that you've just given? What else would you give? What sort of top tip would you give to somebody who is beginning their spiritual journey?
I'd probably say don't try and go out there and learn a heap of stuff from heaps of people, because it's very confusing and everyone has different ways of teaching and learning, and it's just sort of trust in yourself where you're feeling pulled or connected to, and then just try to take things slowly. It's very similar to the way I kind of coach people in food as well. If you try and do too much or learn too much or be something, then it gets overwhelming, or it just doesn't feel real or in alignment. So just kind of connecting with, what do you feel a pull to? So I've heard people talk about certain areas of spirituality, and I just don't feel anything towards it. So I haven't moved that way. I haven't looked into it. And I'm not saying that's forever. It's just not right now. And it hasn't been for my past. And I think that we're all so different and unique. So we need to figure out, okay, what feels right to me. And when you're starting off, for me personally, it was like, don't make it complicated. Like, it's got to be simple, and just work on the things that are really, really simple. So for me, it was like my first deck of oracle cards that looked terrible now, but they're still my favorite because it was my first deck. And I got that from that lady that helped me when I was a teenager. And I look at that deck, it's up on my shelf, and it's, it's not too bad condition considering. She gave me that. She gave me a crystal, and she taught me about incense, or didn't teach me, but got me into incense and teaching me about my senses, which is something I actually learned as a high school kid, and I still teach clients now. And that's just keeping things kind of simple, isn't it? Like, not too complicated. And that's your journey with self as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that so much. And I'm with you. It's like I started out with, so my spiritual journey is slightly split, because I had my spiritual as in with entities journey, and then I had my spiritual with healing journey. So they were two slightly different journeys. But with the healing side of things, like you, I started out with a set of oracle cards, and it began because I was really fascinated about my friend who could sit there and do these readings, and she'd have all these crystals and things around, and it was like this big ceremony thing. And I was like, and she'd do pendulum work and stuff like that. And I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you know what cards to pull out and stuff like that? I had no idea. And so then the very first deck I got was where is it? Here it is. So it's Doreen Virtue.
Yeah.
And it literally comes with a DVD to show you how to do readings.
Yeah, I think I've got something like that sitting around. I have to have a look. I've got a feeling that it's a DVD. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I still use that deck till today. And I've had that for, I would say, coming up for probably 18 years now. So it's like, and it's still one of my favorites to go to. And then I've added to them over time, but it took me only up until the last 2 years to even start diving into tarot. Tarot freaked me out. I was like, no way am I touching tarot. Tarot is just too much. I can't. I can't remember all that stuff. I need the words. I have to have some words there on the cards to help me. Yeah. And then it's just sort of started with getting a couple of decks that didn't really have words, and it developed that level of consciousness and confidence with the messages that I was receiving. And then I went off and did a tarot course with my very dear friend Karen Lee, and she just has a really different way of teaching tarot, and it is really truly about looking at the story and your intuition around that story. And it's like, it's handy to know the basics. It's good to know that, the cups is your emotions, and the swords is the intellect, and pentacles is like earth, and it's money and business. And, it's handy to know all those things as well. But it's like you don't really have to know a lot of the detail, because all the story is there for you. You just have to look at it and watch and see what pops. So, okay, yeah, I can do that. I've been doing that with Oracle for years.
Yeah. It's funny because it's really popping up around Perth at the moment. Lots of people saying that they've just got qualified in that, or they've just started studying that. Yeah. It's like it's a bit of a, not a comeback, because it's been around for a long time, but it's getting popular over here anyway.
That is so cool. Yeah. It's interesting how these things go in ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
It's like you get things like Reiki and NLP, they go through that too. It's like you get a whole bunch of Reiki people or a whole bunch of NLP people. Oh, it's amazing. So before we head into our very last question of the evening, how can people get in touch with you if they would like to receive from you a session around nutrition, maybe helping them with their mindset and that sort of stuff?
Awesome. So I have a website called improveyourself.net.au, and I have a Facebook group called Healthy Empowered Women. In there, I share lots of recipes and eating tips, and help and support for changing your mindset with food, you're welcome to look for me on Facebook, Melissa Wilkes. I actually have my Facebook page open. That's been a part of my healing journey, sharing. That's probably like the best places. But yeah, anything under Improve Yourself, usually you can find me. I feel like I'm pretty easy to find. I Googled myself the other day. I don't know if you've done that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You're like, oh my gosh, when's that photo from? And when's that photo? I just saw, quite a lot about myself. I was like, But so I am actually in the middle of running a bit of a health challenge for March, which is really good because my daughter's getting married next month. So there's another Facebook group there where I'm just sharing lots of inspiration. It's free. It's just a bit of fun. So I like doing stuff like that. Yeah. Keeps me moving. Yeah.
That is so sweet. Did you just say that your daughter's getting married?
Yes. Yeah.
How is it that you're old enough to have a daughter that's getting married?
Oh, I won't tell you her age then. Yeah. That's a good compliment. I appreciate it. Yeah.
You're very young.
Yes. We started our family young, and we've been together ever since. So
I love that. I love that for you. So for our last tasty question, if you could sit next to any person, and they can be dead or alive, on a park bench for the afternoon, and it was perfect weather, there was no bitey things, it's like you're not being sunbaked and you're not being, all that, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'd probably say my nan, because she was a big part of my childhood. My first 12 years of my life, she was very involved, kind of took over a mother role, and I really miss her. So, I'd probably say my nan. I feel like I get to connect with her still now, so I'd love to have conversations about my childhood with her and try and remember a lot more of the really good stuff. Yeah.
I
wasn't ready for that one. So I'm like, don't get teary.
I totally relate. Like, it's interesting how many people would actually pick their grandparents.
Yeah.
It's there's been a few other interesting ones that have popped up, like influential people, and
I was thinking of that. Yeah.
And then it's like so often they come back to those people that showed us the most nurturing and kindness in their life that are no longer here as such in physical form. It's for me, it's the same. My granddad and I, we were just two little best buds running around, doing the stuff on the farm, doing the work. He was teaching me things, and I miss him dearly. His physical form. I miss being able to, pop on over and go, hey, Granddad, I've got a question about this. How would you fix this? Or, what's your thoughts on this? Now I have to do it through the spiritual forms. It's not quite the same.
It's not the same.
It's just not quite the same. I miss the smell of CRC and linseed oil.
I know. I smell my nan's perfume quite often. And so if I ever go, I feel like that's when she's around me. So if I go into somewhere and I smell it, I'm like, it's just like, is it her or is it someone spraying some of that bloody perfume?
Oh, I love it. Alrighty, my sweet. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your magic with our Tasty Tuesdays crew. I am so honored to have you. It's lovely to have somebody who's here from the nutrition world. It's just so fascinating to see how people lead into those different areas of expertise. So thank you for being here with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very, very grateful. Very enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you. Righty ho, everybody. I will be back, of course, for Find You Fridays. And that will be this Friday at 8 p.m. Adelaide time. Next week on Tasty Tuesdays, we have Leanne Forrester, who is from Sparkling Lotus Healing. So she's like a sound healer and Reiki, and she does a lot of other things. She's from here in Adelaide. Looking forward to having a big old chat with her next week. And until then, wherever I see you next, do something tasty for yourself, because you got to nurture you first, right? And until then, be bold, be brave, be you, my beautiful friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.